The question is, what is the deadlocking tab or the smaller latch of the two latches used for when it comes to an exit device? Well, I have an exit device here, just a generic brand that I'm using because it was literally the closest to my desk. So you've got the primary latch, then you've got this smaller latch. And the client's question is, I'm not sure if I need a panic lock set with two latches in it. I'm not sure what that second small latch is for. Well, to address the latter, what it's for is that bolt can be pushed in. Okay? When that deadlocking tab, or the smaller of the two latches, is depressed or held in, I can no longer push that in. That's not only a function of it becoming a more secure device, even though you really can't get to the latch bolt on a panic device from the access or ingress side, the outside of the door. But most definitely, this is the same concept as what you'd have on a lock set, where when the deadlocking tab is pushed and held in, you can no longer push that in. Okay, that's number one. Number two, on fire-rated exit devices, most definitely the feature of this tab, this deadlocking smaller latch, is part and parcel as to how the exit device was not only tested but found compliant in a fire test. No doubt that the mechanical locking of that bolt allows it to be substantially more capable of basically surviving a 3-hour fire test. You know, in a fire test conducted by Underwriters Laboratory or other laboratories, Warnock Hersey, Factory Mutual, whoever else does it, they take a door and a frame and they build it, into, they install it into a wall. They build a wall around it. And then they apply all the hardware, and then they turn the gas on and light it. Well, that gets to, don't quote me, but 1,800 degrees within 3 minutes and parks there for the next 2 hours and 57 minutes. Because let's say that the door is metal or wood, doesn't really matter. That material will shrink or expand. The frame will move or bow or twist or warp. And if the latch bolt becomes disengaged from the strike plate because it's not held in, the door may swing open. And the door assembly will fail the test. That means everybody who's participating in that fire test has to retest. And what I mean by that is you'll have the door manufacturer, who's probably the frame manufacturer. You'll have the hinge manufacturer. You'll have the closer manufacturer. You'll have the exit device manufacturer. So if any component in that fails, it has to retest. And I have been told that, a hinge manufacturer and a closer manufacturer, they will all come together to test the assembly and then share the cost. And what I've also heard is that if the panic device manufacturer's device is the cause for the failure, they have to pay for the next test. Anyway, regardless of whether or not that's true, the fact of the matter is there's no question that this design contributes to the ability of this to survive such test. Now, it may not be obvious, but something needs to keep that deadlocking tab depressed or held in place. It's the design of the strike plate. So in this instance, what's happening here is this design, okay, I'm going to flip this around. I'm trying to figure out in my head how to show this all to you. It's basically going to look like this, where there are two ramps here and here, so that when the door closes, that trigger will hit the ramp and then be held in the depressed condition. Okay, so what I'm showing you here is it's being kept in the held closed position, but the latch bolt is still sticking out, and I'm realizing you'll see it better by me flipping it over and showing you the backside. So it'll look like that. The tab is depressed and the latch bolt is extended. So it's the ramp or the design of the strike plate that allows it to work. Now, this device, and I'm not going to name names, although I would like to, was returned to me by a client who couldn't understand how this deadlocking tab, the little, smaller latch, why it was, always sticking out. It was making conflict with the frame or whatever the problem, the imagined problem was. And exploring the client's problem through the technical support call that I was on, the deadlocking tab is sticking out all the time. So the question is, do you have a strike installed? Do you have a strike installed with the design that will push that in? Did you use the strike that came with the exit device? So yeah, of course I've got a strike installed. Why would you ask me that? Did you use the strike that came with it? Well, no. Why would I do that? The one that was there was perfectly fine. Okay. That's the fatal error. And what I mean by that is every exit device was tested with its strike. So you need to use that strike because that's how it was tested. That's number one. But number two, the reason you're going to use the strike that came with it is because every strike manufacturer has a different design. There are many exit devices like this one that will not have a ramp on both sides because you don't need a ramp on both sides. Okay? You don't. And the reason you don't is because if you had a ramp on one side, okay, you can see how that would work perfectly fine. I don't need a ramp up here on the strike at the top, because if you take this exit device, right now this is a right-hand reverse, and you turn it over to be a left-hand reverse, well, you're flipping the strike over with it. So that ramp and the deadlocking tab are always in alignment with each other. You will find if you were to dive into different strikes for exit devices, whether they be a standard rim strike, a surface strike that will go onto the soffit of the frame, or an overlapping strike when you have a pair of doors, their designs are always particular. Many of these strikes, most definitely the overlapping strikes that are installed on the face of the inactive door in a pair of doors, they don't have a ramp up and down, because they know if you need to change that device to the other hand, you're moving the strike along with it. So they'll never be out of alignment. And that segue that we took, speaking about that actual situation, was done to illustrate the importance of the deadlocking tab, but also the importance of the strike and the specific strike. Basically, what the client was saying was, now that I think of it, that he couldn't hit the exit device. It was jamming sometimes. It wasn't operating predictably and reliably. And he attributed that to the deadlocking tab. And then he had later said, I've cut those off in the past. Well, listen, I'm not the code police. I'm not the panic device police. But I can tell you, as someone who studies the mechanical aspect of hardware, that the device can be expected to not work predictably. And indeed, elsewhere in my experiences with people field modifying hardware in that way, yeah, stuff just doesn't work right. Cutting the latch down, taking the latch and then cutting a 1/4 inch off, and when the latch goes into the lock body, now it's standing too far into the lock case, so that when it's thrown again, it will hit the outside perimeter of the hole that it's supposed to shoot through. So, it's important to not only have that device installed on the panic device, but it's also important to understand its role in the overall operation of the exit device. So it has a functional component where it will prevent tampering or lloyding of the latch bolt. Not so much a problem with exit devices, but nonetheless, because the shape of the Pullman latch, the more you pull, the harder that it is to pull it open. But if someone were to spread open the frame, I would really want that latch bolt locked in place, so to speak, would be what I would want. Then the other component is the fire device was designed and built that way as well. And if it's installed on a fire door, you'll absolutely want to be thoroughly positive that it's installed according to the installation instructions, because the installation instructions are the governing document as to what is expected to be installed and how it's expected to be installed and what exact components you're to use when installing it, so that it all is compliant with the way in which it was originally tested. So in conclusion, albeit a very long-winded explanation, I do hope that that answered the question, and if there are any follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. My name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and thank you. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.